Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know that you're probably like, a VBAC, did you just have a baby? Did we just see your I didn't know I was pregnant video? Yes, y'all did, and I have had another baby since then. And if you didn't know, I had my first baby via C-section, emergency C-section, which I also made a video on that as well. But today we're going to talk about the delivery story of how I got my successful VBAC with my second. So firstly, I want to say that this story is really just like a true testament to God and like how he works, and just being prayerful, standing on your faith and really speaking with him, talking to him. He will deliver your needs. He will deliver what you ask. As long as you stay firm on him and you ask him, he will deliver. And you're going to see in this video, because a lot happened with this pregnancy. I thought about doing a video about this pregnancy, but it was a lot. It was very emotional. It was so hard to find a doctor, and then the doctor that I had to find another doctor. They dropped me. It was a lot of anxiety. I got into a car accident. Like, it was so many things. It was so emotional. And so I don't know if I'll just do a video about the pregnancy itself. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna recall the pregnancy in here during this video, because it just was a lot that happened. It was a lot that happened. And y'all, I'm just really thankful to God that we made it to where we are now. So currently I am about 13 weeks postpartum. My baby just turned 3 months last week with filming this. So I was like, let's go ahead and make this video because it's time. I really want to share this story, especially before I forget all the details, because you know, mommy brain, you forget everything. I lose my head if it wasn't attached, for real. So before I get into my actual delivery day, I'm going to talk about a couple weeks that led up to my VBAC. So firstly, like I said earlier, it was a very emotional pregnancy and I had to switch doctors. It was hectic. It was anxiety filled. When I tell you it was anxiety filled, it was anxiety filled. I didn't even get to find my doctor until literally a month before I had my baby. Like, no joke. So as time started winding down and I'm trying to find and figure out a doctor and things of that nature, I had a talk to myself being like, okay, Bree, you had a C-section before. I know that you want to be able to deliver naturally. You don't want another C-section. What do we need to do to make that happen? That's what I had to tell myself. And just get myself in the mindset, because as time got closer and closer, I had so much anxiety, like so much anxiety. I was like, what if I'm not able to accomplish this? What if this? What if that? Like, all these thoughts were just like cramming in my head. So I said, I had to tell myself, let's sit down and figure out what do we need to do to make this happen. So the first thing I did was I watched other people's VBAC stories. I watched other women's VBAC stories, see what they did, what their experience was like. And I'll never forget the first one I watched. I don't remember her name, but the first VBAC story I watched was the most inspirational, and I really believe gave me the courage and the strength and the faith to get to where I am today because of her video. She was a mom of 3. I think she had 3 C-sections or something like that. And she was pregnant with her 4th. And she was just like, she's having a VBAC. She is doing it. She does not want to be cut again. She wants to have her baby naturally. And the encouragement that she gave me was through her words, because she was just so strong in her faith, so strong in her relationship with God, and she was just like speaking on it, like speaking on what that she wanted, and speaking on and standing on her face about what she wanted. She said she prayed about it in very specific details about how she wanted this labor to go and everything, and she stood on it. Every time she had a slight of doubt, she would go back and just remind herself that it is in God's hands, and she would pray, and she would just constantly pray about the way that she wanted to have her child. And it came to pass for her. That really put me in a whole different perspective and a mindset, because at the time, like I said, I just was so filled with anxiety about how I was gonna birth my second baby. So when she put that in perspective to me, and her seeing how strong her faith was, it inspired me in my faith, and I did the same exact thing. I was very specific in my prayers to God. Every single time I had anxiety about what if, I just prayed to him and I talked to him, and I reassure myself to be reassuring in him, in his word. And that's really what kept me stable, y'all, because honestly, that pregnancy was just the staple of, no matter all the chaos and chaotic things that's going on in your life, God has you in the midst of all of it, like has you, and will supply your needs and make sure that you're protected and have everything you need. And that was the definition of that pregnancy, y'all, I promise, because it was so much chaos, so many chaotic things, and so many things I couldn't answer, and the only thing that I could do was lean on my faith in God, and he came to pass. He delivered, as he always does. So that was the first thing I did. Her VBAC story was very inspirational, and I watched other people's VBAC stories just to see, what it was, because some people were like, they were completely unmedicated. Other people got induced. Some people use epidural. Some people don't. Like, it was a lot of different variations. But I kept with the success stories. I was like, I'm not gonna watch a failed one yet until I was ready. Because I wasn't in a mind state to be worrying about failures at the time. Like, I was already with anxiety. It was not gonna help me feed my anxiety more watching the fails at the time. So after I watched a lot of different stories, the next thing I did was I was heavy on the typical things they tell you to do to help induce labor naturally, or get your labor going, such as walking, bouncing on the ball, exercise, making sure you're drinking enough water, pineapples, dates, all that kind of stuff. I was heavily implementing in my plan in my last few weeks before I had my baby. Now, I will say I don't think that these things are going to guarantee that you go into labor, because at the end of the day, when your baby is ready to come, your baby will come. But I think they're just good practices to do. Because I also learned in this process of me switching doctors, I was able to access my labor records for my first baby, which was interesting to read, by the way, and seeing the notes that my doctor wrote on that day. Again, I made a whole story about my labor video if you'd like to watch it. But one thing I read in the notes was that the doctor said my pelvis was too small, and that was the reasoning of why I wasn't able to have my first baby naturally. So then I went into a deep dive research on, like, is it possible for your pelvis to be too small? The short answer is no, actually. It's not the fact that our pelvis is too small. The real thing is the mobility in your pelvic bones. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the official scientific words for it, but your pelvic area, your pelvic bone, those joints are flexible and mobile. They will conform and fit and configure out while you're giving birth to be able to push the baby through that birthing canal. It will form and shape. But if you have cold joints, it's going to be harder for your joints to be mobile and fluid and give that fluidity that it needs to do the job. Once I found out about that, I did a lot of exercises that gave me movement and fluidity in the hip and pelvic area to help me be more open and just more loose, I guess you could say. Because I will say that the difference between my first pregnancy and my second pregnancy, I was very cold. That's what I'll say. I was very cold, and what I mean by cold is I was not warming my body up. I was not stretching. I was not walking. I was not doing any of that. I wasn't even sitting in the most optimal seating to sit when you're pregnant for your baby, for the position and everything. I wasn't doing any of that at all. So my second pregnancy, I was very hyper aware of my movement, how I sat, where I sat, and also getting that movement in, especially on the ball. I bounced on the ball as much as I could in those last couple weeks, especially if I was watching TV, bouncing on the ball. If I was just sitting down, bouncing on the ball. If I was eating, bouncing on the ball. If I was folding clothes, bouncing on that ball. But just wanted to give myself that fluidity, just to be, just to open up. This is the movement I feel like doing. We're doing it. Just open up, open up. On top of that, once I finally found the doctor that accepted me, they were also VBAC toe-like friendly, and I was so happy to hear that, because I was in a position where I wasn't able to figure out if I could pick a doctor based on that. I was in a situation where I just needed medical care, period. So I was so happy to hear that they were VBAC and toe-like friendly. And my doctor, she was like, she wanted to do as much as she can to help me naturally go into labor, so I can have my successful VBAC or toe-like. Because something that they told me is your chances are higher if you go into labor spontaneously or naturally. You'll have a better chance of going into labor. You'll have a better chance of having your baby naturally, having your successful VBAC or toe-like. So my doctor was like, she wanted to do whatever she could, and one thing she wanted to do was a membrane sweep. She said at my 37-week appointment, she wanted to do a membrane sweep. And I was very anxious about that, because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what a membrane sweep was. I didn't do that in my first pregnancy. So I looked it up, and I was like, I was scared. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, oh no, I think this is gonna hurt. And the reason why I felt that way is because when I saw my doctor the first time and she did a cervical check, it was painful. And I was not ready for that, because the first time I had my baby, any cervical checks that I ever had, they were not painful at all. It was very easy, smooth going. This time it was painful and uncomfortable, and I was not ready for that. So I was like, you just checking my cervix is painful, so you want to sweep the membrane and do all that on top of that? Oh no, oh no. So my 37-week appointment came, and she was like, asking me if I still wanted to do it, and I was expressing her my concerns, and she was like, look, I understand, I can make you do anything. I just want you to know that I just want to be able to help you in the best way possible in your circumstance. And so I sat there and thought about it, and I said, okay, yeah, let's do it. When she checked my cervix, it was not painful at all. So she was like, you did great with that check. I think you should be fine. I was like, okay, Ben, let me get in a better position. Let me get in the best position. Because, when you get your cervix check, you got to scoot to the end. So I was like, let me scoot as far as I can before you do it. And I did. And it was painless. Didn't hurt. I wasn't in any pain. I was so excited. I was so excited, y'all. I was like, okay, yeah. But my excitement really was because I overcame one of my fears, and the fear of it hurting and this and that. I didn't fall into my anxiety with this. I was like, yeah, cool, great. She did inform me, like, after the membrane sweep, you could experience cramping, bleeding, and if you experience contractions for so many, like for 5 minutes or 2 hours straight, you need to go to the hospital. I didn't experience any cramping or anything in that time, so I was pretty normal. But as I was doing, my doctor recommended to me to bounce on that ball, go for a walk, do what you gotta do, all the normal pregnancy things they tell you to help you induce labor. So fast forward to the week before I had my baby, my whole entire house got sick. My whole house got sick. Oh my goodness, we all got sick. It was crazy. It was Christmas Day. My baby got sick first, then I got sick, then my husband got sick. So we all in the house sick, and I was sad because everybody was sick and I wasn't able to move around like I wanted to. And I was like, man, I don't think I'm making progress. I didn't bounce on my body, I didn't take no walks. It's like I was so sad. And the end of that week was my last doctor's appointment before my induction day, because they're going to give you an induction day if you don't go into labor beforehand. So that end of the week was my appointment for that. So once the end of the week came, we're all feeling better, thankfully. I go to my appointment and I get checked, and I think I was at 1 centimeter, but I was like 90% thin, something like that. I was at 1 centimeter, but it was really thinned out. So she did another membrane sweep at that appointment. Now when she did that membrane sweep, that whole evening after that doctor's appointment, I was feeling cramps. I was feeling cramps for real, and I was like, okay, that's what she was talking about. So I'd say around like 6-7 o'clock, I was on my computer editing, and like I said, I was feeling these cramps all day long, all evening long after I had my appointment, because it was like my appointment was like 2 or 3, and so that whole evening I was feeling cramps. So I said, let me time my contractions or my cramps to see what it says, and they were coming like every 5 minutes, back to back to back to back to back. But they weren't painful. Like, they weren't painful at all. It felt like period cramps to me. But they were coming back to back to back. And even the contraction tracker app I was using was like, all right, sounds like you need to head to the hospital. But I was like, nah, I don't want to rush to go to the hospital and then nothing's going on. So that evening, I laid down. I went to sleep around like 9 something, and I was just like, okay, if things get more intense, then we'll go. If not, we're good. So I lay in the bed. I wake up around like 11. I'm still feeling them, but they're not barely intense at this point. And I say around 1 in the morning, they completely stopped. Like, just shut down. Shut down. And I remember at this time I was watching a lot of videos by this lady. I can't remember what her name was. I'll find her. But I remember coming across a video saying like false labor, signs of false labor. And so I watched it, and to the T, everything that was going on in the video of false labor. And I watched several other videos about false labor and went down a rabbit hole about false labor. I was like, I think that's what I'm going through. The only difference is my contractions were consistent. It's the only thing that was different. But everything else sounded the same. My contractions weren't increasing. The pain wasn't increasing. It was just like flat across the board. So this was Friday night. That Saturday, I didn't feel any contractions or anything at all. I was kind of sad that I was going into false labor, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, oh, I thought this was it. This was the big to-do. And then I found out that you can have false labor and not be in labor anytime soon. So I was kind of sad about that, but it's okay. So that Saturday, I didn't have any contractions. Everything felt normal. And everything was fine up until that Sunday morning around 4 a.m. I went to the bathroom, and I checked, and I saw like little blobs of blood, but it was like old blood. And I was like, what's this about? You know, like, what's this about? So I look it up, because I've been looking up everything. I'm gonna look everything up. Anything that I'm feeling, anything that I don't understand, I'm gonna go look it up and look it up again and then look it up again to see if that's what's going on. And what I found was there was signs of a mucus plug. My mucus plug unplugging. And I thought at the time that I lost my whole entire mucus plug. At the time, I was like, oh, I lost my mucus plug. So that morning, I called my mom. I was like, I lost my mucus plug this morning. So I don't know, but I think things might be happening. And so mom was like, okay. She's like, well, keep me updated so I can, come up there, because my parents live like 2 hours away from me. So I had to keep my mom on standby, because I wanted to make sure that somebody was with me outside of my husband, because he was working to watch my first. So Sunday goes around. Mind you, it is New Year's Eve. It's New Year's Eve. Sunday's going on, and I'm feeling contractions again. I say around like 12 p.m. I'm feeling contractions again. Very slight, very steady, nothing crazy. I'm getting everything done. I'm cleaning up. I'm organizing, putting things together, just getting my last minute stuff ready. And I was supposed to cook that night, so I'm just cleaning up, doing my do or whatever. And they slowly intensified, like nothing crazy. Around 4 o'clock, I went and got me a salad from Wendy's because I started looking up just ways to naturally induce labor, and some kind of salad popped up like at a restaurant in New York and was like, this salad puts everybody into labor the next day or whatever. And the salad just sounded good, and it reminded me of salad that Wendy's had, so I went and got the salad. So I get the salad, I put me and my baby in the car, we go to Wendy's. It's not too far from my house, and I'm driving, I'm like, these are some contractions. Like, okay, no, like these are some contractions for real. I'm sitting in the Wendy's parking like, okay, these are some contractions for real. So it was around like 5-ish o'clock. At this time, my husband was at work, but he was on his way home. So I'm letting him know, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling contractions. Like, they're slowly intensifying. They're not tense or nothing like that, but they're slowly intensifying or whatever. And he's like, all right, cool. Well, I'll be home for 7. Time he was gonna get back from work. I said, okay, cool. I was talking to him on the phone. I was like, I don't know, I think I want to call my mom to tell her to come up here because I'm feeling these contractions, and you know, we might be doing something. He was like, no, I don't think you should have call her. I think you should wait it out until the morning and see, call it in and see if she needs to come. And in my mind, I'm like, there's not finna be a morning. Like, I was like, I don't know, but I kept her on standby because I didn't want her to rush and come up here and then nothing happened, especially what happened Friday. So 7 comes around and I had to pick him up from work, and I was feeling contractions on the way there, like for real contractions. They weren't like super intense, but it was like, okay, breathe. Okay, breathe. Thankfully his job is also right around the corner, so it was not far. So I pick him up and we switch places. We ride back home. He's like, you having contractions? I'm like, yeah, I'm having contractions. It's getting real. So we get to the house and I'm like, all right, let's get ready to go to the hospital. But first I said, I'm not going to the hospital without taking a shower. I refused it. I refused to go to the hospital without taking a shower. So we get home. I take my shower, he takes his shower, we give my baby a bath. We all get our showers in, we get all this stuff. We get the suitcase and everything at the door, like getting all ready. And by the time that we did all this, it was like 9 o'clock. And after I took my shower, the pain of my contractions went down like immensely. So I was kind of sad because I thought that I was having another false labor moment. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not even feeling my contractions anymore, so let's just lay down and try to get some sleep in, and we'll see. So that was around 9. So around 10:30, I woke up. I woke up because my contractions were intensifying. They came back. I was feeling them again, and I woke him up. I said, no, let's go to the hospital because they're back. This is not a drill. Let's go to the hospital. So he puts my baby in the car. He puts my suitcase in the car, and I was like, let me use the bathroom real quick before we go. I used the bathroom, and boy, what I saw, that was the mucus plug, okay? I was like, whoa. It was like a big glob, TMI, but it was like this big glob. I said, oh no, that's my mucus plug. This is not a drill. We're about to have this baby. So it's like 10:30. No, it's 11 o'clock on New Year's Eve. And we head to the hospital. People already popping firecrackers and everything. Thankfully, it wasn't really busy, and the hospital wasn't too far, about 10 minutes away. Really far. Not like really quick to get to. No traffic or everything. But I'm like, bro, we are going to the hospital on New Year's Eve. I'm about to have a New Year's baby. We get to the hospital about 11:30. By 12, they had me in a triage room. They didn't put me straight to labor and delivery. They wanted to check and see if I was far along enough for me to be admitted or whatever. So they have me in triage. And this point, like, I'm feeling real contractions at this point, like, for real. And at the time, they couldn't give me any medicine or anything. The only thing they could give me was some Tylenol. I said, sure, fine, I'll take some Tylenol. So I'm sitting there on the bed, and I'm letting them know, like, I can't sit down. I could not sit down. They wanted me to lay in the bed. I could not. Like, laying in that bed and feeling contractions just was uncomfortable. It just was nonsensical for me. I was like, I need to move around. So I'm walking around. I'm sitting up on the edge of the bed. I'm sitting on the toilet and everything. And I say around 12:45, a doctor came in to check me to see how far along I was, and at the time I was 4 centimeters, which was a great improvement because that Friday I was 1 centimeter. So things are moving, but they were like, in order for me to admit you to labor and delivery, you need to be at least 6 centimeters. So instead of sending you home, we're gonna wait a couple more hours, and if we come back and you don't progress anymore, then we're gonna send you home. Those 2 hours passed, and I am trying to cope with the pain. My contraction wasn't super bad, but they were definitely intense at that point. I know they were intense. She was there. And I wanted to say that I was very proud of my baby girl because it was the middle of the night, and she had every right to just be screaming, crying, because it was time for her to be asleep. She was up. She was just quiet. She was chilling. It was like she just knew what was going on. I was very proud of us because it was me, my husband, my baby, all in one room, and I'm just trying to cope with these contractions. So I was moving as much as I could. I was moving around because I just could not stay in the bed. I could not do that. And they kept coming in the room because since I was moving around, the little monitor on my belly kept moving, so they couldn't find the heartbeat. You know, that was so annoying. But I wasn't gonna stop moving around. I couldn't just sit in the bed. Yeah, I wasn't gonna sit in the bed and just feel that pain. No, I need to move around. So my husband was even shaking my apples. If you don't know what that is, it's when you get on all fours and someone stands behind you and just literally shake your hips. And the nurse called it shaking apples from my first labor and delivery experience. So about 2 hours passed. They come back and check me again. I was at 5.5 centimeters. So they were like, we're gonna go ahead and keep you since you're progressing. And I was like, thank God, because I did not want to be sent home. And if they was gonna send me home, I would have sat in triage until I felt like it was time for them to readmit me. So before they moved me to my labor and delivery room, they had to start my IV. And when I tell you that was probably the most traumatizing part of this whole entire story, I'm a hard stick. I tell this to everybody that has to take my blood, has to start IV, whatever it is to get needle in my vein. I let them know I am a hard stick. So they had to prick me 5 times. 5 times to get, I needed 2 IVs. I had one in both hands. They pricked me 5 times. You remember that? The worst. And it got to the point where the anesthesiologist had to be the one to put my IVs in, and she was not gentle at all. She was like, don't move, stop moving. No. Yeah, she was like, no, don't. I'm like, ma'am, no. Y'all pricking me with these thick needles, it hurts. I'm having contractions, and you're not being gentle. Once they gave me my IV and moved me into the room, the anesthesiologist came in and was like, are you ready for your epidural? I said, no, ma'am. I will call you when I'm ready. I was already too traumatized with the IVs. I was not ready. I was not in the mindset for them to put the epidural on me and you not being gentle. So I'm in my labor and delivery room and I'm feeling my contractions and I'm just riding through them. I'm moving around. They brought a ball for me to bounce on. My husband was shaking my apples. We were just doing a lot of moving. And time was really moving. Like when I'm thinking about it, time was really moving. So I say around 6 in the morning, around 6 a.m. the doctor came in to check on me and she told me that I was 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters. I was like, hold on, wait, what? What? 8 centimeters? I didn't think I was that far along. I didn't think I was moving that far along. She was like, yeah, girl, it's about time to have this baby. I was like, hold on, bring the anesthesiologist back in here. I'm ready. I was like, do I have enough time? She was like, yeah, you got time, girl. I was like, okay, because I didn't want to go unmedicated. I didn't want to go. I was like, in case something went wrong, I did not want to go unmedicated. No. Please give me the epidural. After I had the epidural, my labor didn't slow down a little bit, but I'm glad it did because I was tired. I was up from 11:30 to, I'd say, 7. Because after they gave me that epidural, I went to sleep. I took a good old nap, about at least an hour or so. And before I went to sleep, I was like, call my mom, call my parents, let them know what's going on. So, they were on the road. I took a nap. By the time I woke up, they ended up arriving. And so, it's like 9 something at this point. And my water had not broke the whole entire time. My water did not break. And so I'm sitting at 8 centimeters, and she was saying that she's like, we can break your water, but in case that we do break your water, there's a possibility of the umbilical cord coming out, and if that happens, then we're gonna have to do an emergency C-section. And I'm just like, no. So she was waiting because her other team they were performing the C-section at the time. So she was waiting to break my water. She said, I don't want to break it yet. I want to make sure that they're available if need be on standby. So I was like, okay. I was like, at this point, I'm like, okay, we don't have to rush to break it. Like, that's what my thought process was. Like, okay, we don't have to rush to break it at this point because I am not trying to have to rush on and get into the operating table. So some time passed, and then she comes back. She says, my team is ready, so we want to check you again and see how you're looking, and we can break your water. And I'm like, okay. And before she could even use with the tool to break my water, she was like trying to find it. In the midst of her doing it, it broke. It broke just like that. So after my water broke, that's when things got super intense. And that's when I noticed that my right side wasn't all the way numb from my epidural. So as my contractions got intense, I can feel it on my right side. And basically my epidural was uneven, so it was going to the left, but it was not going all the way through on the right. So I was feeling those end contractions. And I had to turn on my side, onto that side, to get the medicine to even out a little better. So I'm laying on my right side. I'm like, oh my goodness, and I'm feeling these contractions, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to push. That's what I told mom, like, I feel like I need to push. Like, it just, my body was like, ugh. So sure enough, the doctor came back in, looking at me like, hey, I feel like I need to push. She checked me. She was like, you ready to have this baby? And I said, yeah, let's do it. So they did some practice pushes with me, and just let me know how to push, because even in that moment I was like, I don't know what to do. Even though I watched videos, I watched breathing techniques and everything, all that flew out the window in that moment. So they did some practice pushes with me, and by that third practice push, they was like, okay, we need to get you in the stirrups, we need to get you ready. So they get me set up in the stirrups. Now it's time to push, y'all. So it's time to push, and so I'm like making noise, and y'all, it was a whole team in there, and one man was in there. He was like, hey, don't scream. And I guess the look on my face said it all before I could get anything out. And they were like, I don't know if the look on my face said anything before I can get the words to say anything, but the nurse was quickly like, no, it's just because if you don't scream, you get to have more power in your push, and you're able to actually push it better when you're not exerting that energy to scream, and exerting more energy in the pushing goes smoother. I was just like, how you gonna tell me? I don't know how many pushes I did. Like, I didn't count how many pushes I did, but I do know everybody, the team, I do know that the team came in around 10:40, you know, to check me this right before I started pushing, and 11:07 my baby was born. So I say I pushed for about 20 minutes and my baby was here. And just like that, my baby was here. They're like, here she is. And she was just crying. And I was crying. My mama was crying. We all was crying. I was just so ecstatic. Like, I was in such awe. Like, we really did it. Like, this, we really did it. We really made it happen this time. So it was a very beautiful experience, and I'm so thankful to God for him allowing me to be able to experience such and bringing the prayers that I prayed to him to fruition and allowing me to do this. Because when I tell you, I was very specific in my prayers. I was specific in that I wanted a healthy and safe delivery. I wanted a natural delivery. I wanted to go into labor I wanted to go into spontaneous labor. I wanted to make sure that the health of my baby and me were good throughout the whole process, that we safely make it on the other side, like all of that. And God did just that, and I'm just so thankful in the name of Jesus. So that's my story. That's my testimony of my successful VBAC. I hope this didn't sound confusing, because I've been rambling. I had to start like 4 or 5 times. Had to feed both babies. So I hope this doesn't sound all over the place, but I appreciate it if you stay to the end to watch. And if you have any questions, drop down in the comment section if you want me to answer any questions, or you can share your VBAC experiences, or if you're just a mom and you just want to say hey, you know. So, but thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one.